You can never predict what happens on live TV. At this point, we have to learn to expect the unexpected because most of the times things go smoothly, but other times things go so left and you cause controversy, lose your career, or simply face embarrassment for the rest of your life. Let's talk about some of those moments today as we count down the top 10 most embarrassing celebrity moments on Saturday Night Live. At number 10, Karmin. For many up-and-coming performers, the idea is that you want to get yourself out in front of as many people as you can. Fame, after all, is based on talent and fan base, so if you can get as many people as possible engaging with your content, then you're golden. For many people, SNL can be a quick way to get to the top, but for others, it can ruin your career even before it really got started. This sort of happened with the music duo Karmin in February of 2012. SNL can be a great testing ground for new artists, as new audiences are able to get a feel for this new talent. In January 2012, Lana Del Rey made her debut, and though she had some negative reviews, particularly those saying that she looked lost and distant on stage, she was able to turn these reviews into the image she holds today with her almost ethereal performances. But just a month later, when Karmin took the stage, their performance wasn't strong enough to catapult their career like it did for Lana. Karmin, though now disbanded and rebranded, was a music duo who got their start on YouTube by posting covers. Eventually, they got a large following by posting their renditions of songs like Party Rock Anthem and Super Bass, and they were able to release original songs with the help of their newly signed music label. The casting director over at SNL found them and invited them to perform on the show, and so they did. They performed their songs Broken Hearted and I Told You So, and after their performance, the reviews started pouring in, and it wasn't good. They faced a lot of criticism saying that they failed to connect with the audience, and one critic said that their performance caused, quote, mild auditory distress. They were never really able to bounce back from this catastrophe of a performance, and so they eventually faded away, ending their careers. At number 9, Jenny Slate. Sometimes it takes a mistake to realize that you just aren't cut out for something. Mistakes are good for teaching us things, even though they totally suck in the moment. This was pretty much the case with comedian Jenny Slate during her brief time on SNL. Though she's pretty successful now, back in 2009 when she worked on SNL, she was still up and coming, looking to get her foot in the door. Things were starting to look up for Jenny when she landed a coveted role on SNL as a writer and performer, but things quickly took a nosedive as she messed up pretty big during her very first performance. In her first appearance as a member of the cast on the show, she was performing one of the sketches that she wrote called Biker Chit Chat, and in one of her lines she accidentally switched up her words from being PG-13 to being a little more adult. Jenny ended up committing one of the greatest SNL sins, saying the F word. She caught herself saying it but just brushed it off, pretending that no one else heard it, but unfortunately people did hear it. This mistake sort of stuck with her for a while she was working there, and though she wasn't fired for that specific reason, she did end up leaving at the end of the season. Though there was a misconception that the F-bomb was what really ended her SNL career, Jenny did say in an interview that, quote, that's not why I got fired, I just didn't belong there. I didn't do a good job. I didn't click. I had no idea how Lauren felt about me. All I know is it didn't work for me and I got fired. End quote. Her career eventually picked up, but it probably set her back a bit after being fired from SNL. Before we carry on with this cringe fest, why not leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Ashlee Simpson. After this infamous performance, Ashlee Simpson's career was never the same. Ashlee Simpson was getting her music career off the ground in the early 2000s, and in 2004 she was invited to perform a couple of songs on SNL. Like I've said before, this kind of opportunity can be a pretty big deal for some, but for others it can be detrimental. Anything can happen during a live performance, and it could be good or catastrophic. Well, Ashlee accepted the invitation to perform and geared up to perform her songs Autobiography and Pieces of Me. Her performance of Pieces of Me went off without a hitch. Actually, it was very successful and it got her audience pumped for another song. But this is where things turned sour. As the band got ready to start playing Autobiography, a track started playing, but it wasn't what people were expecting to hear. Instead of hearing an instrumental for the correct song, they were instead listening to a pre-recorded vocal track of Ashlee singing Pieces of Me. This accidental slip-up revealed to everyone that she had been lip-syncing the entire time. Ashlee then froze for a second, then started doing a really weird and awkward dance before rushing off the stage. It was absolutely mortifying and very detrimental to her career, and this incident stuck with her for years. Later on down the line, Ashlee spoke out about this incident, saying that it was partially her dad's fault that this happened, saying that he suggested that she make a backup track because she was having trouble with her voice and he didn't want her to strain it more. Now Ashlee looks back on this incident saying that it certainly sucked, but she's stronger for it, and that's definitely a positive way of looking at things. At number 7, Sinéad O'Connor. Probably one of the biggest SNL controversies to date comes from the drama surrounding Sinéad O'Connor, the Catholic Church, and SNL. The show had its fair share of controversies and scandals in the past, but I think few of them come close to this one that happened on October 3rd, 1992. On this episode, Sinéad was asked to perform a few songs from her newest album at the time, and she agreed, but there was a little fine print to accompany her appearance. She was asked to perform one of her original songs, but instead Sinéad opted to sing Bob Marley's song War. The show executives thought this was a little bizarre, but they went along with it anyway because they thought that no matter what she sang, it would still be captivating. Well, it was captivating alright, but not for the reasons anyone was expecting. That night during her performance, Sinéad did a very dramatic rendition of the song, even switching up some of the lyrics to change the context and meaning. It was all starting to get a little tense until Sinéad blew the doors off her performance by ending it with her ripping up a photo of Pope John Paul II saying, quote, "Fight the real enemy." She did all this as a means to raise awareness about allegations against the Catholic Church because she had personal experience with those who were allegedly hurt by members of the church, and she wanted to fight against it. This stunt prompted a lot of anger towards both Sinéad as well as the show. For days following her performance, NBC received thousands of angry calls condemning them for allowing something like this to happen. Other celebrities like Madonna and Joe Pesci also had some harsh words for Sinéad. This stunt ruined her career after this, and no one was quick to forget this scandal. At number 6, Charles Rocket. There was a time where SNL was in big trouble. From 1980 to 1981, SNL was facing a bout of struggle and negativity following a controversial position change. Because of this position change, most of the cast left, prompting people to have to hire a brand new cast. This new cast was untested, and so for the 80 to 81 season, they were really just in the dirt. One incident made things even worse for everyone, and that was when comedian Charles Rocket dropped an F-bomb during a skit. Though SNL skits can be controversial, this is one that absolutely is a no-go with those pesky F-bombs, and so dropping one can be very bad for you and the studio. During the season's 11th episode, Charles was closing out the show, and for whatever reason, he decided to let an F-bomb fly. While doing his closing, Charles, in reference to a skit that he performed earlier in the show, said, quote, "It's the first time I've been shot in my life. I'd like to know who the F did it." End quote. If you watch the footage back, you can tell that this wasn't an accidental slip-up on Charles' part, and he actually meant to say it. This was the absolute last straw for the studio, and they fired much of the cast and crew. At number 5, Kristen Stewart. I feel like hosting SNL would be one of the most stressful jobs to have. I mean, yeah, it's good exposure, and it can probably be a lot of fun being on the show, but there's also some pretty important rules that you need to follow, and breaking one of them can be pretty bad. This happened to Kristen Stewart back in 2017 when she was hosting SNL one evening. In her opening segment, she was going off about how Donald Trump didn't like her, and she even did a mini skit with 2 of the show's cast members. All was going pretty well until the end of that little segment because she accidentally dropped an F-bomb. As we all know by now, swearing on SNL is a big no-no, and she probably didn't get into too much trouble since it was an accident, but you can certainly tell that she was embarrassed by her mistake. At number 4, Elvis Costello. Usually when someone tells you to do something, you do it. Within reason, of course. When it comes to SNL though, it is strongly advised that you follow the rules, not just for professionalism, but also because you have to follow the rules of the network. Well, Elvis Costello decided to throw all of that out the window when he went against the show's wishes and performed a song on the show that they had previously objected to. As he was one of the musical guests on the show that night, he was asked to perform the song Less Than Zero. Well, he started playing it, but just 15 seconds into the song, he stopped the music and switched gears, going on to play the song Radio Radio, a song that was thrown out before the show. He completely went against the show's wishes, and as a result of this rule breaking, he ended up getting banned from SNL. At number 3, Kanye West. Kanye West is no stranger to causing controversy. I think we all know this by now. He just can't help the fact that he's a very outspoken person. When Kanye West was on SNL back in 2018, he ended up getting booed off the stage because of the remarks that he was making about Donald Trump and his support for the former US president. He came onto the show wearing a MAGA hat, talking about how he fully supported Donald Trump, and no one was having it. Even the host for that night, Adam Driver, started booing the rapper. His whole rant wasn't aired on TV, but a good chunk of it was, part of it including Kanye saying, quote, "There's so many times I talk to like a white person about this and they say, how could you like Trump? He's racist. Well, if I was concerned about racism, I would have moved out of America a long time ago." End quote. It's safe to say that he faced a lot of backlash after that night, but at this point, that doesn't even faze Kanye anymore. At number 2, James Franco. Back in 2017, a mini stunt in a skit went wrong on SNL. James Franco was playing a part in a holiday-themed skit where he was wrapping gifts, and his character cut his finger pretty badly and it was gushing blood. As part of the bit, he put his fake bloody finger in his mouth and his mouth filled up with fake blood. When Leslie Jones entered the scene, James spat out the fake blood and a lot of it ended up going into Leslie's mouth. It was so gross to watch, and apparently she spent the entirety of the bit trying not to gag. But this was seriously hard to see. Because of this mishap, James Franco ended up facing a little backlash, as fans said that he shouldn't have spat the blood at Leslie in the first place. And finally, at number 1, Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody is a super successful actor, but after a scandal while hosting Saturday Night Live in 2003, his potential hosting career began and ended all in one night. When Adrien was hired to host SNL one evening, one of the tasks he was given that night was introducing the musical guest for the evening. Seems like a pretty simple enough job, but he still managed to mess it up. On the night that Adrien was hosting, the musical guest turned out to be Sean Paul, and Adrien saw this as a perfect opportunity to introduce Sean in a very interesting way, to say the least. When it came down to announcing Sean's performance, Adrien came out dressed in fake dreadlocks, sporting a Jamaican accent. His bit was called out and was seen as offensive and uncalled for as he went off script to do this bit, which no one found funny in the slightest. Because this was such an epic and controversial fail, the actor was subsequently fired and banned from coming back on the show. He faced a lot of backlash that hurt his image for a while, but clearly he's bounced back since then. Before we wrap things up for today, I want you guys to leave a comment down below telling me what your most embarrassing moment was. This is a safe space, so feel free to share your stories down in the comments. Anyways, that's it for me. I've been your host, Brie Room, and until next time, stay safe, make a choice, and stay groovy, friends.